Hi everyone. As you all know, we've all gathered over here for our monthly Logic Talk session, and today our guest of honor is Miss Pooja Taparia. The topic is learnings of a social entrepreneur. I'll just give you a background about Miss Pooja Taparia. She is the founder and chief executive officer of Arpan. It's an NGO based in Mumbai with a mission to prevent the occurrence of child sexual abuse and heal those who have been affected by it. She started work on CSA in 2006 and has grown the team from 3 to 60 professionals. Probably it's one of the largest team in the world who runs various activities, workshops, teaching, training and counseling services to deal with CSA. She is also mobilized close to 2 million USDs for working on CSA, which is somewhere around 12 CR. Pooja is a director on the board of Unlimited India and plays an advisory role on their strategies and programs. Unlimited India is an incubator for social entrepreneurs which works with early stage social entrepreneurs to help them accelerate their progress, develop as leaders, and prepare their high impact organizations for scaling and further investment. Pooja has been awarded the Architects of the Future Award 2013-14, and her life work has been permanently put up as a part of the Walsall collection in the Melk Abbey or Museum in Austria, if I've pronounced it correctly. I now request Pooja to take it ahead from here then.
Thanks. Hi everybody, so happy and excited to be here, especially when I heard that it's going to be a young group of people, and as soon as I stepped into this office, one could just feel the vibe of this young energy here. And I asked about you, and they said the average age is about 25, and I was like, wow, now that is an exciting audience to have and talk about my journey and my learnings with. So what I'm going to do is over the next 30-40 minutes talk to you about what this journey has been like and what are some of the things that I have learned as an entrepreneur on this journey. I know today's buzzword is startups and venture capitalists and social businesses and social enterprises, and I'm as excited to be a part of that entire diaspora because I really do think it is an exciting time in the country. And so I'm going to share what this journey has been for me, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have and look forward to an engaging session with all of you. But thank you for inviting me. Thank you, Annapurni and Manvi. Great. So Arpan, like she's mentioned, we're a team of 60 professionals today with an operating budget size of 3.5 crores. Just to give you a sense of the statistics, India has the largest number of sexually abused children, which is very sad. A child is raped every 155th minute, anybody who's under 16 years. And 40% of children who are abused are adolescents. And you can imagine if at that age of adolescence one is getting abused or even younger, what that impact would be. Just to give you a sense of the impact, one has seen that children show all kinds of symptoms of trauma. They could be completely fine, or they could show symptoms of trauma. They could disassociate. They could develop promiscuous behavior. They could use language that is inappropriate. They could show physiological systems, so stomach aching, urine infections. All those kinds of physical symptoms can be also seen. As children grow up, the probability of developing healthy relationships reduces. We've seen adult survivors who've come to us for counseling. They're unable to have intimate relationships, either the husband or the wife. Men have been equally sexually abused as well. And so it's really heartening when men come in for counseling at Arpan. We have people from the age of 5 to 65 coming in for counseling. And you can imagine how much that impact has probably been at that age as well, that they saw the need that, I really need to connect with somebody and seek help. So very kind of things, it can even go on to suicidal ideation, it can lead to self-harm behavior among some people, and a lot of host of other things. So Arpan's primary work is direct prevention and intervention work with children and adults and with parents and teachers. And we also go on to train other people on building their capacities to work on child sexual abuse. We've been a part of energizing and mobilizing public and policy changes. The law, the Protection of Child Sexual Offences law that came into the country 3 years ago, we worked as a part of that entire group incessantly for 2 years to get in a law in place because the country had no law to deal with child sexual offences. So that was something that we've done significantly as well. 56% of our resources are allocated to providing direct services. So, what we're really doing is going into the classroom, teaching children personal safety skills. I'm going to go in detail over the program, but just to tell you what our strategies look like, there's advocacy, there's R&D, there's training, and there's services. What we've done so far is we've been able to reach out to 110,000 children and adults in the last 9 years. About 45,000 children and another 65,000 parents, teachers, doctors, police, all kinds of stakeholders. And this is like what the journey looks like. The 15-16 is still not over, so it looks small. We've been able to raise about 14.5 crores, including income that we've received, as well as committed income. Largely, we work on a donations model, so we're really a typical NGO that you could say, who works on grants and money that people give. We're not able to generate far too much revenue, also because the ethos of the organization is philanthropy, it is charity. So we do not really say that, if you give money, then we'll give you a service. We've won multiple awards for our work. The Jamna Lal Bajaj Award 2011, the India NGO Award 2011 for doing exemplary work in the sector. We've been widely recognized and reported in the media as well as a voice on child sexual abuse. So to tell you a little more about the key program that Arpan does, our focus really is prevention of child sexual abuse. So what we go and do is we go to schools, we say we have a program to teach prevention to children and to make adults better at protecting children from sexual abuse. The onus of protection really lies with the adults and really not with the children, but adults can't be with children all the time. So we go into the schools, into the classrooms, and for children between 6 years to 13 years, over 6 lesson plans, we teach children personal safety skills. And what that means is helping children build their self-esteem, helping children understand differences between safe and unsafe touches. Nobody taught us that, right? No, all of us over here, nobody taught us this. But can you imagine how important it is to teach these things to children at a very young age? Them understanding that it's never all right for someone to talk, touch, or look at my private body parts. And if such a thing happens, say no and get away from that situation. And thirdly, go tell a trusted adult about it. Most importantly is that you seek help when you are in an unsafe situation. And remembering that it's never our fault. Most of us adults grow up thinking shameful, feeling guilty for what happened to us as children, and thinking that it's our fault. But really, sexual abuse is never, never the child's fault. And I think if we leave that at that young age, it does so much to alleviate any kind of trauma, even before trauma sets in. And so that's really the program that we go and do. And we of course have awareness sessions with parents and teachers, telling them what child sexual abuse is and helping them develop a better safety net for children. So far we've worked with about 45,000 children across about 90 schools in Bombay. We've had individual sessions with all of these 45,000 children. And sometimes when I go across the world talking about Arpan's work, people are just amazed. Like, really? You have an individual session with every single child? And I say yes. It's so important that after we've done the lesson plans, to just do a check with every single child. How are they feeling? Because most likely, if children have experienced abuse before we've done our lesson plans, they would be feeling anxiety. They would be feeling maybe very confused. They would be feeling sad. They would be feeling angry. And we think that it's Arpan's business to support them in that journey. Because it would be so unfair to walk into a classroom, children, this is what it is, and then walk out and then just leave them to deal with those emotions in a society where we are not conditioned to talk about how we feel, especially boys. Boys are never told to talk about their feelings. Boys are in fact always said, oh, boys don't cry, you're not a girl, boys don't cry. Where will that boy ever go and seek help? Or the girls and the boys who grow up in a society where we've just created such a taboo around sex and sexuality. Nobody even imagine we live in a society where we are taught every name of our body part except penis and vagina. Who teaches us what are the names of our private body parts? Nobody, and we come up with all those other jargons to deal with it. But doesn't a child, an individual, have a right to know what is the name of my private body part? It's just such a basic right. But we've created such a taboo around talking around these things that no wonder it is that our data shows that 70% children don't report instances of sexual abuse. Imagine the silence. Imagine how much is happening under the carpet. And therefore, one of our endeavors is that we break the silence. We give the vocabulary of child protection to children, to adults, so that we remove this taboo, we remove this shame around sexuality, so that we live in a world where we can talk about what's bothering us. We can talk about when we're feeling unsafe. We can talk about when we're getting bullied, when a peer is trying to touch us, or when somebody else is trying to touch us inappropriately. And so we do these individual sessions with every single child just to make sure they've understood the messages in the classroom. Have they experienced any abuse in the past? Are they experiencing any abuse right now? And if children share, then those case details are taken up and the case is referred to our in-house counselors. Within 3 days, we try and reach the child to address the child and ask the child more details about the case. We then counsel the child for about 4 or 5 sessions. We take consent from the child to call the parent in, tell the parent about what the child has shared. Most parents are just left shocked because it's for the first time that they are hearing something like this and that the child has disclosed it to us for the very first time and not all this while. And it's just been amazing to see the kind of disclosures that have happened. You know, in one school we had one child who would get ferried by a driver, and the driver would touch him on his private body parts, and it was happening since quite some time. The program happened, and then the child spoke about it to our trainer, and we counseled the child, we called the parent in, and the mother came in and she was like absolutely breaking down. She was like, I just didn't know. And then you know how it is, like parents tend to think they are responsible, which they are, but it doesn't help to start thinking that, oh my God, I'm not a good parent enough. And so our job is to even validate that, yeah, we live in a society where people don't talk these things. So what can we do about it? And the child and the mother went, and they live in a joint family. They taught all the children about personal safety skills. And they sacked the driver, and you know they were able to take immediate action on it. There was an 8-year-old girl, her father would run a shop and the employee would come home for some other work. And times when she would be alone in the house or if somebody wasn't around, this employee would abuse her. She finished the lesson plans and her dad was traveling, but she picked up the phone and called up her father and told him exactly what was going on. The father just dropped everything, rushed back, supported the child and of course sacked this employee. And I can talk to you about so many cases. We've worked with about 2,500 cases of abuse, sexual bullying, inappropriate behavior over the last 6 years. But countless stories that tell you that, how just speaking up can be so helpful. So we've worked with about 30,000 parents and 2,000 teachers. Some immediate outcomes that we've seen. 5% of children disclosed abuse or inappropriate behavior. Ongoing abuse that was happening in all of those cases came to a stop. Open communication channels developed between parents and the children, and then of course children themselves have become advocates for PSC. Children will go and teach their building friends, their neighbors, other siblings in the family about what they learned about personal safety skills. We got an audit done on the program. So it's not enough to say that we think that the program works. So we got IMRB, which is a very well-known social research agency, to do an audit on our program. And most importantly, what they found was that 8% children faced an unsafe situation post our program. And of those 8%, 90% children were able to seek immediate help from a trusted adult. And so that really made us feel that, we're on the right path. It's such an organic journey because we're really building the path on this issue in the country where there's nothing. And so it's heartening to see the immediate outcomes as well as some long-term outcomes on our work. What we're trying to do is getting people to replicate what we're doing. So we train teachers, social workers, professionals on the personal safety education so that they can take it forward. We've institutionalized the knowledge so that people can use these manuals and go and take the program forward. As a result of our training and capacity building, we've been able to reach out to another 220,000 children and adults over the country in the last 6 years. There's a lovely project that we also do. It's a small project, but something which is very close to my heart. We've been working in institutions with adolescent girls and boys. These are shelter homes. And we've been doing long-term psychotherapeutic work with them, long-term counseling. So about a year, 2 years, 3 years, through group work, through individual sessions. And it's just been amazing to see their journey of empowerment. We recently published a process documentation on the 6 years of work so that other people can read that and do similar work. Let me just tell you an example. I get very excited about this. So I remember the therapist telling me that once a girl was talking to her about something that happened in the home, so there were these two girls sitting with each other, and one girl took an apple and went to this other girl, their friends. They said, "You must be hungry. I've seen that you haven't eaten anything since morning. Why don't you eat something?" And she got extremely upset and she said, no, I don't want to eat anything. Just go away from here. And she was like, okay. After 2 minutes again, she went back with the apple. And she said, "I know you're hungry. You've not eaten anything. Here's something. Please eat it." And she again got very upset. And so this other friend went, "You know what? I know you're not angry at me. It's something that's going on in your head, in your mind. And you're angry at that, but you're not angry at me. I understand." And I was so flabbergasted when I heard the story. I was like, even I don't have that kind of understanding that these girls have developed. Or a girl who's now turned 18, she's ready to leave the shelter home. She's found a boyfriend, a very nice man. But it's interesting that, she goes to her boyfriend and says, "You know what? We are talking about marriage and everything, but I see some issues in you. Why don't you first go in for counseling and then let's get married?" Just for her to develop that kind of awareness about, what is not seeming so all right is just amazing. And we do that through psychoeducation. We tell our clients about what trauma is. We tell our clients how the brain functions when we are faced with a traumatic situation. How does the amygdala get fired up? The frontal cortex shuts down. Our rational brain is not working. The amygdala senses, keeps all the memories. And how in our lives those triggers happen, and it keeps affecting our behavior today and the way we perceive the world around us, the way we perceive our relationships around us. And that really is what trauma does, whether it's sexual trauma or whether it's any kind of trauma, either through sudden death or a natural calamity. And really, it's just been such an empowering journey working with these girls. I feel like, I have grown in this journey. So we've been able to work with 94 girls in 5 institutions and done about 1,200 sessions of therapy. Some reductions and reductions that we've seen an impact is a reduction in sexualized behaviors, depression, self-harm. Very common for these girls because they've been very sexually traumatized, and a lot of them are trafficked and they are rescued from brothels. We see self-harm behavior. We see very common self-harm behavior acts happening. So most common is they try and slit their wrists. And so to help them cope with that, to help them understand how that is unsafe for them, it's just been an amazing journey. So where did it all start, I'm a graphic designer, and so I thought it would be great to give you that context once you've heard this. So I studied graphic design and commerce, and I come from a business family. As soon as I was out of college, I set up a family business with my brother. We manufacture non-woven fabric products today, and we're one of the leaders in that work in the country today. And so a couple of years just went in setting up. You can imagine how, again, that, it's a startup phase and what that startup looks like. And I'd never imagined I would be part of another startup, but I was also associated with my guru in some time, and he always spoke about service. He always spoke about doing something for the community, and I always felt that, I'm quite privileged, and how can I give back? And so I started going to orphanages, shelter homes. Some friends got interested, and as a group we would go and do some volunteering activities, celebrate festivals with the old, with the children. This is way back in 2003, some 12 years ago. And really Arpan's journey started there. So we would do some activity once a month, just like you have, Logi Talk once a month. And the turning point happened when I saw this play. It was a play by Lilith Dubey. It's happening again, 2 shows in the next couple of months. I would strongly recommend for you to see this play. It's called 30 Days in September, and it beautifully showcases the journey of a survivor. I saw this play and I came out of the hall thinking, oh my God. I think I was about 24 at that point of time, and I was like, if there is a play on this, then it needs to be a social problem. And before that, I had no idea what sexual abuse was. I had no idea what child sexual abuse was. And so I went up on the net, tried to look up some more, read up some more. So what is this, And it left such an impact on me that I vowed that someday I want to do something about this. But I was busy with my design projects and all of that. But 2 years later, in June 2006, with Pushpa Venkatraman, we started some just general awareness talks on child sexual abuse. And slowly we took on some more people. Another milestone happened when I got an opportunity to be an investee with Unlimited India. Unlimited India is a startup incubatory for social entrepreneurs, and I got selected for that, and they really helped me think through things about what I wanted Arpan to be about. Arpan really means to offer back. And so I said I was really keen to work on child sexual abuse, and that's where it started. And slowly the team grew, and I learned what an operating budget means, and what a strategic plan means, and what does it mean to be a leader, and all of it with Unlimited India. So this was an aha moment to have an article published in the Hindustan Times about Arpan. And while I was so keen on continuing work with the children in the orphanages and all, but it became very obvious that child sexual abuse would be our focus. And so we took on some more people, and we launched our school program in 2008, and we started teaching personal safety skills to children. The team grew, we started trainings, and all our work really took on. I was recognized with the Karamveer Puraskar Award in 2010. And the completion of the circle went when we hosted 30 Days in September after a couple of years. That very play that inspired me to work on child sexual abuse. And 6 years later, I'd never thought that Arpan would be doing that, or there would be something called Arpan. But I remember talking on that stage and addressing the audience. It just somewhere felt like, something had completed inside me. And it was just beautiful. And, we had some more volunteers and team members join in. Yeah, we started putting in structures and systems. We got support by the R. Jhunjhunwala Foundation, that is led by Rakesh Jhunjhunwala. And it was a time when Arpan was about, so how do we now structure ourselves and take this forward? It was very clear that we wanted to, really take this ahead. And so we finally had an office space. Before that, we were working out from my cousin's office for 2.5 years. It's quite funny, we started with one cabin that he gave us, and then soon in a few months we needed another cabin, and then we needed space outside. Until one day, a person from his IT team came and said that, "Madam, the rate at which you're growing, we'll be all outside and you will be inside." And I'm like, "Don't worry, we'll be out from here." So when we got some funds, we took on our own office space. I was invited to London for a couple of events to talk about Arpan's work, and an opportunity to talk about Arpan's work at the White House in Washington about 3 years ago. So thank you. So that was a great opportunity as well. You're not allowed to take any photos of the building, so it's just the plant. And it was combined with a fellowship that I got to Columbia University for 3 weeks on non-profit management. That was another beautiful moment of meeting social leaders from across the world and exchanging ideas and sharing our challenges and learning from such brilliant faculty of Columbia University in New York. So that was lovely. We've recently got some more awards, the NGO Global Excellence Award and the Dastra Girl Power Award and the Architects of the Future Award, that we've had. So now the next part of my presentation is about, what this journey has been, and if anybody asks me even today, ad hoc, I say it's a roller coaster. It's really been a roller coaster for me, for the organization. We've had lack of experienced individuals working on child sexual abuse. You will find an accountant, you'll find an IT engineer, you'll find, a management expert, but somebody who's worked on child sexual abuse, not available. Attrition, that's a common problem amongst all of us. One of the reasons of attrition at Arpan has also been because it's a very complex and overwhelming issue to work with, because on a daily basis you're probably hearing stories of abuse, stories of pain, and to do that constantly can be very hard. Inconsistent cash flow, so you never know where your next fund is going to come from, and so you can't really plan ahead. But I was always a risk taker till I got my lesson in July 2010. I needed 70,000 rupees. Salary date was about a week more that I had to raise this money, and had no idea where this money was going to come from. And I remember calling up every person I knew that I need to raise this money because I was very particular about giving salaries on time. And it was such a stressful time. And I got such a huge lesson out of it. And so finally some money came in before that date, and we got saved. But I had to plan better. I really got that lesson that I had to plan better. I had to take lesser risk because the organization was growing. Lack of external opportunities. It's not very rare that our trainers get picked up from the school and are showed the main gate. Bye-bye, we don't want your lesson plans. Or, to have somebody do a campaign in the school saying that, no, our children don't need these personal safety skills. So let's send letters to the principal and say, no, we don't want Arpan over here. Or, some political party to get involved, a religious body to get involved. And so we've had all of that. And so with all of those challenges, and we still continue to have them, you just keep on heading on, but it's not like you have a supportive environment at all to do this. Keeping up with organizational development has been a challenge. Every year the team grows. Every year, what is it that you can do different to be able to keep this herd together? And that's been one of my biggest challenges, is that when in such an emotional issue where everybody can want to do something different, how do you keep the team focused on one vision, on that one thing that we want to do and take it forward? It still is a challenge today. Balancing in your role as a leader, or as a manager, as a professional, it can be very tricky. Sometimes it's you who's doing that job. Sometimes you're the one who's also managing the team. Sometimes you're also providing the leadership. And it can get very overwhelming. Also, that you might land up actually being a professional when you should be showing some leadership. And it's been such a journey just to understand that how these three things are different, and that how we all are different, and we could fit in either of all these three, or two, or any one. Ethical dilemmas. That more than often has come up. What do you do when you're challenging your own ethics? And you question, so what are our values? What are the ethics by which we want to stand up on? And it's been, even today there are moments of self-doubt that I have. Each case is different. Each child is different. Each situation is different. How do you take any decision at all about what to do? Because you really don't know what are the challenges of that child. And is it all right for us to sort of say that, okay, this is the appropriate thing? No. The child's voice is important, and that's Arpan's effort that's been for a while, is to keep bringing the voice of children in the forefront. Too often we adults think that we know what is the right thing to do. We know what's best for the child. But we come from an approach where we say, the child probably knows better than us. And so very often we've had ethical dilemmas around, what to do, what feels right for us, and to do the same thing. And how can we not have double standards in the work that we do? CEO. Do I want to be a CEO? Do I want to continue being a CEO? So many times I've had this question in the last couple of years. It's hard. It's hard to be that person sometimes taking those hard decisions. And it can sometimes be quite lonely because you're the only person whose mandate, even if you don't want to, is to think in the larger interest of the organization, in the larger interest of the issue, in the larger interest of the beneficiaries that you work with. And it can be a very lonely job. So this is a quote that I read from a book which is really nice. Sometimes an organization doesn't need a solution, it just needs clarity. And sometimes the right policy is the one that the CEO can follow. So my learnings, and these are some learnings that I would recommend for a startup. Any of you wanting to start a startup, maybe it's useful, maybe it's not, and so see how that can help. I thought that it's good to aspire, but to stay grounded. And remember that we're all walking on this ground. Plan well and strategize. It's key. The better we plan, the better we're able to sort of deliver on what we've decided to deliver on. Always remember you are the attraction. Every time I've gone to raise equity funds in my kind of work, the investor, the funder is really looking at you. Who are you? And what is your capacity to deliver on what you are saying that you're going to deliver on? And so the money really sometimes doesn't come for the cause or the work that you're doing. Initially, the money is probably just coming in for who you are and the risk that funder is wanting to take on you. So you're the attraction. Money attracts money. It was that chicken and egg situation. I would go around trying to raise funds and people would think, okay, so how much money have you raised so far? And I would be like, 80,000 rupees, 2 lakhs, and then we're like, oh, okay. But I soon realized that it's important to have had raised some amount of money to be able to raise more money. And it's hard, but that's what my experience was. It's important to take care of yourself. We can all just die doing this, work 24 hours, but I've realized that this is a long inning. And I think at the startup phase, to say that this is a long inning and I'm preparing myself to a long inning is critical. Otherwise, we can just die of exhaustion. Continuously be inspired. What inspires us? What motivates us? Can we find that in our lives and say, okay, this is what motivates me? And we do that constantly to be motivated, to be inspired. If we can find motivation in our work, brilliant. That's great. Start taking a salary. So very often I've seen startups, entrepreneurs do not start taking a salary. And I recognize that funds are very, very scarce at that stage. You're just trying to even struggle to raise money for the program or the work that you're doing. But I have found that as soon as you have even a little bit of money, starting to take a salary brings in huge amounts of accountability. It did for me. And I started with a salary of 2,000 rupees after about 1.5 years or 2 years of work. And I started at 2,000 rupees. But I found that 2,000 rupees had immense value. And I see that very often entrepreneurs struggle to do a full-time job as well as to do their project part-time. And obviously you need the means, you need the money. And then, the project always gets less priority because your full-time work is your bread and butter. So how can you, sort of start earning your bread and butter from your project that you're doing, the enterprise that you've started, and that then starts gaining importance. And I've seen this works brilliantly with a lot of people. Value your time. Where are you investing time is critical. And I've realized that there's a lot of value in doing that. So this is a lovely quote again. Remember that this is what separates the women from the girls. If you want to be great, this is the challenge. If you don't want to be great, then you never should have started a company. And I relate to that a lot because I feel that when you go out there, just do your best. If we're not pursuing for excellence, I feel, what am I doing? But that's something very personal to me. Delegate. At the startup phase, we all want to do everything and we need to do everything. I know I've done everything in the initial years. But the minute you start having team people, if we can delegate, that frees up our time for more important things. Higher skills you don't have or your area of interest. I wouldn't know how to manage finance. And I was like, somebody needs to help me with this because maths is not me. And so I took on somebody just to help me with that, because then the struggle is lesser. Get out of implementation as fast as you can. At that startup phase, we're all wanting to do the work. So we are the ones who will go and do the trainings. We're the ones who are going to go and, pitch for the program. So we're doing the marketing, we're doing the budgeting, we're doing everything. And so it's important to get out of those things as fast as we can, that we can allow ourselves to, and focus on what's really expected from us by the team. There's always more to learn. I think it's very important to have that attitude, to be open to keep learning and meeting with people, so that you get better ideas, you're able to sort of develop your work better. Don't be discomforted with what you don't know. I would get very discomforted. I would be in a room. This sector was completely different for me. This work was so different for me, and I would have these people who would know so much, and I would feel like, oh my God, I'm so foolish. I don't know this, I don't know that, and it was so much of that. But I realized that if I don't get out of my discomfort, my learning would hamper. And so it's important to do that. I remind myself of that even today. Challenges are the biggest and best teachers. We all don't like challenges, but I've found the times Arpan has grown exponentially, it's been after a challenge. It's been when you've been pushed to think out of the box, you've fallen, and you look up again and all right, what do I do now? So I very often say that I'm great at being the phoenix. The phoenix is somebody who dies and then resurrects. I think I can do a very good job in a play of being a firebird. Engage well with important people. I've found networking is just key. How can we connect with lots of new people and lots of other people from various backgrounds to learn, to bounce off our ideas, to share our struggles and challenges openly? It does brilliantly. Breathing your conviction is important, I feel. At the end of the day, when I am standing here and talking to you, what you're really maybe not listening to me is what I'm saying, but what you're listening to me is how convinced I am about the work that I'm doing. And that's what's touching you, nothing else. Thank you. This is another lovely quote. Being a good company doesn't matter when things go well, but it can be the difference between life and death when things go wrong. And things always go wrong. Some recent learnings that have been after that startup phase has been over is that, perseverance really is the key. You just have to keep at it. I've had days when I've wept, I've cried, I've felt like I don't want to do this anymore. I've gone back to my board a number of times and said, you know what, I don't think I want to do this anymore. I just can't take it. And that's the time when they said, you know what, go take a break. And they made sure that I took a compulsory 2-month break and said, after you come back from your break, let's talk about it. They were very smart. When I came back from my break, I was like, all right, I'll continue. So, because it just gave me time to just relax, to rejuvenate myself, because it's really hard. The emotion is so high in the organization with the people. To be able to keep managing that emotion, to still keep motivating people is really, really hard. And to motivate myself at the end of the day. Even there are times today when I just go home and I'm just sprawled on the bed. I'm like, I can't talk to anybody right now. So that still continues. But yeah, you just have to persevere. Positivity is a delusion. Sab acha hoga, it'll all be all right. We'll get there. I learned that, it doesn't work. You better plan. You better be ready for what can go wrong. Because now that you're an organization of 60 people, I tell myself, you can't take the risks that you could take before. It just becomes much more higher responsibility than it was before. So building resilience in yourself and in your organization is really critical. So resilience in me as a leader. Am I continuously learning about leadership? Am I continuously evolving myself to be a better leader? To be able to motivate my team, to be able to do personnel development, to be able to coach my team and have a mentor and a coach who can develop me. And I think that is very important. And to start thinking about organizational risks, to start thinking about contingency planning. And I know my team even today struggles with it because this is not something that we've been taught to do. Most of my team is counselors and social workers and from other professionals. But I've realized that this is important. Last year we failed to meet our targets, and the only reason we failed to meet our targets was because we hadn't planned in advance. We didn't have a good plan in place. And so what could we have done better this year is that we better plan in advance and we have a detailed plan put together so that when in adversity or there is a risk, we know exactly what to do. And so we're trying to build that resilience in the organization. Creating a culture that people value. It's really nice to see that when people walk into Arpan, the first comment that they make is that this is such a lively environment. Do you really work on child sexual abuse? And we're like, yes. And you'll find people laughing and eating food and having a good time between all the work that we're doing. And we have our weekly team sharing meetings where we create support environments for our team to vent out, talk about what's been not so nice, but what's been nice. And all those kinds of rituals that one can create in the organization, which people start valuing. Choosing the right kind of people is important. If you don't have the right kind of people there, chances are we'll fall again. And so it might not be nice to fire some people, and I've really, really struggled with them. I've taken months to ask people to leave. But it's sad, and the only thing is that it's just that, as you keep growing, the needs of a position change. And maybe if people haven't grown in that time, it becomes hard. Or that you took on somebody thinking that there is a match to the profile that you're looking for. But in a few months, you realize that, you actually didn't do a good match. And really the responsibility lies with us who are hiring. That are we really trying to hire the right kind of people? Sometimes it's important just to define who you're not rather than who you are. And I think that's been one of the questions that I've been asking myself all the time. That what are we not about? What are we about? And that helps you define who you are and to feel good about that. Being a good company is an end in itself. So these quotes are from a lovely book I've been reading, The Hard Thing About Hard Things by Ben Horowitz. So check it out if you like it. And yeah, enjoy the journey. And there's this other quote. Mark, do you know the best thing about startups? And the friend goes, Ben, what? It's like, you only ever experience two emotions, euphoria and terror. And I find that lack of sleep enhances them both. So thank you.